Hey guys, how's it going? Brandon here and welcome back you guys to another Pokemon Rebuilder. This is the series where we take a member of the Pokemon universe, whether it be a gym leader, Elite Four member, maybe someone from the anime, and we give them a new updated team. So basically what we are going to be doing, like the previous video, if you didn't check that out, link to that being in the description. We went through Bertha. This time around we are doing Karen from the Johto Elite Four, so dark types mainly. So what we're going to do is we're going to be doing 3 teams like we did before. That's a updated competitive team for the most recent generation, which as of recording is Sword and Shield. We're going to update her current team. For this one we're going to be doing Generation 4, so Heart Gold, Soul Silver. So we're going to be giving her a better team based around, like, she's an Elite Four member. She should have a really solid team and it should be a challenge. So it'd be, if it was like a challenge run in the games, this is the type of team that we would give her that would be a really challenge and competitive aspect to it. And then finally, for all you team builder lovers, I'm going to give you guys a usable in-game team. This time it's going to be for Pokemon Sword and Shield. I will try my best to keep it to the generation they're from, but with dark types being very minimal in Heart Gold, Soul Silver, it worked better for us to do a Generation 8 Sword and Shield Karen team builder. But this time around we're not alone. I didn't want to give you guys 3 teams. I didn't want you guys to hear me ramble on for nearly half an hour. So this time around we've got 2 other people known to the channel to help us out. So first up we've got Dave, or as you guys know him as Shroomraver.
Hello everyone, Shroomraver here.
And doing another team we have another person known to the channel. We have Alex, or Onesie Bennett.
How's it going guys? My name is Onesie Bennett.
So the links to their channels, Twitters, all that good stuff, Alex's Spotify as well, will be in the description down below. Definitely go to make sure to check those out. First up, we have the competitive team with Dave.
Hi everyone, Shroomraver here, and as Brandon has no doubt said, I'll be going through Karen's Gen 8 competitive updated team for if you ran into her in the battle tower or something like that. Now Karen, using Dark type as one of the greatest Dark type trainers, it's not the greatest typing to lend itself to a defensive style, so this is going to be a very hyper offensive team with very little support, but just enough to make it work. The main key thing of this is the longer the battle goes on, the less chance she's going to have of winning, so it's all about getting in heavy hitters one after the other and doing as much damage as possible as quickly as possible. Now with that said, her lead is going to be Grimmsnarl, a light clay prankster user with those dual screens, Reflect and Light Screen. This is going to be what sets up the rest of the team to do as much damage as possible. Get the Reflect up, get the Light Screen up. With the Dark typing, of course, Grimmsnarl can't be taunted, which means that you've got a very good chance of getting those 2 screens up to make way for something to do a lot of damage later on. Spirit Break and Darkest Lariat are going to be Grimmsnarl's stab moves of choice. With that base 120 attack, it can still dish out a lot of damage with those big hits, while getting the screens up for other things to come in and do more later on. So what's going to come in once those screens are up? Well, first up is going to be Greninja, the 3rd fastest Dark type going after Weavile and Darkrai. This is a Life Orb Protean set, so you're going to be getting Stab Boost plus Life Orb on every single hit that Greninja dishes out. Hydro Pump, Dark Pulse, Ice Beam and U-Turn are the moves of choice, all of which are dishing out big amounts of damage. U-Turn is there to get that initiative. You know, with a hyper offense team, you're going to want to be getting initiative where you can, so this is one of 2 U-Turn users on the team. Greninja of course can get rid of its dark and water typing if needs be, but realistically what you're looking at here is just everything getting stab damage and life orb damage to punch holes where possible, and if necessary come in and clean up with that big base 122 speed. So the other U-turn user on the team is next, and that's going to be Hydreigon. Hydreigon is a choice specs user, and that is going to mean very powerful hits coming off a huge special attack stat. Dragon Pulse and Dark Pulse are going to be the stab moves. They're going to be getting reliable damage on most things. U-Turn is that 3rd move, going to be getting that initiative along with Greninja behind screens again. When you're going to be making switches against her, she's U-turning out into something that's going to hit super effectively. Flash Cannon is on there for coverage, of course. With Gen 8 we've got fairy types that she wouldn't have had to face before, so Flash Cannon is on there to get some big coverage damage on those problematic fairy types. With the choice specs boost, that is going to be dishing out major hits to the big threats to her team, especially this Hydreigon being 4 times weak to fairy. Flash Cannon is very much going to be a necessity on there. Now, we are going to want to have some hazards. With Hyper Offense, your opponent's going to be making a lot of switches. So, Crocodile is our next Pokemon with its Stealth Rock. Now, we do have a Choice Scarf Crook here, so we're going to be able to get those Stealth Rocks up quickly. If you can bring that in on something that's Choice Locked into Electric or Psychic. I don't know why you'd be running Psychic against Dark, but if you can get it in and get those rocks up, that's really going to help out with the opponent making lots of switches. Scarf Moxie Crook is a big threat. Moxie, of course, raising the attack stat every time you get a KO with it. Knockoff is always seen, and especially Stab on Crocodile puts out a lot of damage whilst getting rid of your opponent's item. Stone Edge is there for a nice bit of coverage alongside the Stab Earthquake. Rock and Ground is very, very good coverage, and Crocodile is an excellent exponent of that kind of damage dishing. So there's our first real physical threat on the team. And a Scarf Moxie Crocodile is just another thing that can come in and clean up late game. You know, we've already got Greninja with the speed, Hydreigon to punch holes. Crocodile can come in and do both of those things, whether you want to punch holes early or clean up late game once you know you can lock yourself into a certain move. So, the fifth member of the team, and that's going to be her longtime ace, and that's going to be Houndoom. Now, we could have gone with a Mega here, but sticking to tradition of Karen just using a regular Houndoom as her ace, we have a Life Orb Flash Fire set here, the second Life Orb user on the team, with Dark Pulse and Fire Blast dishing out big amounts of special damage for those stab moves. Sludge Bomb is another move you've got on there, a nice addition to Houndoom. Once again, those fairy types could be problematic to the team. Now, Houndoom is one of the few Pokemon that's going to at least take those hits neutrally with its fire typing, and Sludge Bomb can hit back at them for super effective damage. We've also got Solar Beam on there. Water is a little bit of an issue for this team with only a couple of resistances, and once again, it's a very offensive team, so resistances aren't going to be really playing into it too much. But if you want to take a fairy type hit, especially with the screens up from Grimmsnarl, Houndoom's going to be the one to do it. Solar Beam just means that you have to charge, but with the screens up, that's a possibility. Get a big Solar Beam hit off on a pesky water type, and you're going to be good to go. So that is her ace, but realistically, it's not necessarily going to be the one dishing out the most damage on the team, because we also have a late game sweeper in the form of Tyranitar. Now, once again, this is something that could have been a Mega. Obviously, in the Bertha video previously on this channel, we saw a Mega Tyranitar. Right now, we have a weakness policy Tyranitar, and this is a deadly late game sweeper, especially with that screen support. Dragon Dance is there to set up the speed. So once you have the screens up with Tyranitar behind it and the Sand Boost, especially that special defense is going to be very high. So the likelihood of taking out Tyranitar in one hit with a super effective move is actually quite low, especially if it's a water or grass. We are only 2 times weak to it, and they often hit on the special side. So in one move, you can get up a Dragon Dance and the weakness policy. Now you've got +3 attack and +1 speed to be hitting really hard with that Stab, Crunch and Stone Edge. And once again, we've got Earthquake on there for the near perfect coverage. It's going to be hitting stuff like Steel types really hard, which this team has a little bit of an issue with. You know, we have fire coverage, we have a lot of ground coverage, but even more is always going to be nice. And Tyranitar is a super bulky Pokemon with all those defensive stats at least 100. So even a super effective physical fairy hit like Play Rough isn't necessarily going to be doing the damage you need to take this thing out in one hit, especially once again with those screen supports from Grimmsnarl. So this is our late game sweeper Tyranitar, which is going to be a huge threat. So yeah, that's pretty much the team. As we've said, it's very hyper offensive. We've got a lot of sweepers, we've got a lot of cleaners, and we've got a lot of hole punchers. Everything supported by that crucial dual screens Light Clay Grimmsnarl to make sure that your Pokemon on this team can live as many hits as possible if needs be, and just start dishing out damage. Very fast attackers that can hit hard, and then have something like the Tyranitar or the Greninja, maybe the Scarf Crocodile, to clean up at the end for this updated Karen team.
How is it going, guys? My name is Wanzi Burnett, and I'm here to talk you through what we believe would be a more improved version of Karen's team from Generation 4. Now, this team in particular is going to be assuming that all of Karen's Pokemon, and her AI in particular, have been improved greatly on par with her Drayano ROM hack. So kind of like Fire Red Omega, that sort of levels. So we're assuming that every single one of her Pokemon is going to be going for super effective attacks if they're available, they will switch out if they need to, and they will have some kind of strategy with the way that they play. And that strategy is going to be very evident in this first Pokemon here. In Heart Gold and Soul Silver, you can rematch Karen, and she has a 6th Pokemon. That 6th Pokemon is an Absol, but to be honest, it's not doing much for her. So we've decided to swap out that Absol for a Drapion. This Drapion will be her lead, and it will want to do one thing and one thing only. It will want to go for Toxic Spikes. Not a lot of major trainers, Elite Four members, gym leaders, any kind of champions have used entry hazards as a main staple of what they want to do. That is what we're going for here. This Drapion is a lead Drapion that wants to do one thing, get those spikes up and cause you residual damage. The rest of the moves, coverage moves. Night Slash and Cross Poison are there because they're stab moves. They do synergize quite nicely with Drapion's other ability, Sniper, but we've decided the chance of getting a critical hit isn't quite enough to really make it worth it, so we've kept Battle Armor to protect this Drapion from a stray critical hit that might have taken it out otherwise. Aqua Tail is there to hit ground types, because ground is the only type that can hit Drapion super effectively, and we've gone with Black Sludge because it's going to give this thing a little bit more longevity. It might turn some 2-hit KOs into 3-hit KOs and give this thing a chance of surviving a little bit longer to get the extra Toxic Spikes up. Now with Toxic Spikes in play, this thing is going to cause havoc. I'm gonna guarantee that you probably won't have a Rapid Spin user on your team. And even if you do have a Rapid Spin user on your team, this thing's probably gonna hurt it a lot, because a lot of Rapid Spin users aren't very good against Drapion. Claydol gets hurt by Night Slash a lot, Starmie gets hurt by Night Slash a lot of the main common Rapid Spin users, except for maybe Fortress, are gonna struggle against this Drapion. It's gonna be a bit of a pain. However, once the Toxic Spikes are up, you are going to be in trouble, because the next Pokemon on this team is an Umbreon. A Wish Protect Umbreon. That is going to be a very, very difficult opponent to beat, because there are only 2 ways you can really take this thing out. Get some status on it, get a Toxic on it, or hit it with a strong fighting or bug move. If you don't do one of those 2 things, whatever Pokemon is up against this thing is going to be statused. Either you're going to be statused by the Umbreon's Toxic, or you're going to be statused by the Toxic Spikes. We've given it Wish Protect because this thing wants to keep itself healthy as possible. We've also given it Leftovers because give itself a little bit more residual healing. And crucially, as I stated earlier, all of her Pokemon can switch out. So this thing could go for Wish, switch into something else that has a better matchup against the current team member you have, and that thing will take a hit and then get all of its HP back from Wish, because Umbreon has a pretty good HP stat. So this thing is going to be a very important cog in what Karen is trying to do with this team. We've given it Dark Pulse. It's questionable whether we wanted to give it Dark Pulse or give it Payback or Heal Bell. We figured that this thing would want an attacking move, because you never want to be in a situation where you're up against the poison type and you can't toxic it and you can't do anything against it and you're just sat in waiting for it to, kill you. So we kind of thought that giving it its own attacking move would give it a little bit of its own kind of pressure against the opponent. But it could be swapped out there for Payback or Baton Pass if you really wanted to go funny, but we figured Dark Pulse was probably the best move for that slot in particular. So this thing and Drapion have good synergy with each other. Drapion sets up the Toxic Spikes, Umbreon sits in against you, a special wall Umbreon, and watches you die. That is very, 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 very difficult to come up against. And I guarantee that there is no Pokemon trainer in an entire Pokemon game that has done something like that against you. However, once you've been weakened down a little bit from the poison, the gradual damage coming up against you, the next Pokemon she would then have is a Honchkrow. And this Honchkrow is a bit of a bulky physical sweeper, as we've put here, because it's going to be able to take a hit or 2, and it's also got Super Luck and Scope Lens. Now, that is going to mean that every single one of this Honchkrow's attacks have a very, very high possibility to critical hit you. Night Slash, I believe, already has a high critical hit ratio, will 100% guaranteed be critting you. So every single attack will be doing double damage to you. That's huge. If you think you can take a hit from this thing, think again, because Honchkrow has a very high attack stat. And it's also got Sucker Punch, so even if you're slower than it, it has a very high chance of just going for that Sucker Punch and hitting you before you can even do anything. And combined with the poison that the other two have set up, you're going to be in for a bit of trouble against this thing. We've gone for Night Slash because it's got the high critical hit ratio, guaranteeing a critical hit if this thing is faster than you. We've gone for Drill Peck because it's his other stab move, and basically it deals with the two types that are good against Umbreon, that is Bug and Fighting, and it just synergizes very well with the Dark type in general. And we've also gone for Superpower to deal with Steel types, because in Generation 4, Dark is not very effective on Steel. So Night Slash and Sucker Punch and Drill Peck all don't deal any damage at all to Steel types. However, Superpower is super effective against Steel types, has a 120 base power, and has about a 50% chance to critical hit you with Super Lug and Scope Lens. So if that thing hits a Steel type with Superpower, gets a critical hit, you're in trouble, mate! So this Honchkrow is going to be a very, very fearsome opponent. Now, on to the next Pokemon. Now, this one's going to be a little bit more in line with the original strategy of going for Toxic and kind of stalling you and being a little bit of a pain. That is Spiritomb. Now, the most important move on this Spiritomb set is Destiny Bond. Spiritomb is known for being a little bit of a tank. It sits in, it does damage to you, and it also statuses you and throws around nasty status effects. But this Destiny Bond means that this Spiritomb is always going to be in the driving seat. If you can't kill it in 2 hits, this thing is going to be very, very annoying to you. And even if you can kill it in 2 hits, turn 1, you attack this Spiritomb, it then goes for Destiny Bond. Now until this Spiritomb attacks you again, you're going to be in trouble. Because if you take this thing out with Destiny Bond up, it will take you out as well. So it's basically guaranteed to get off a Stab Dark Pulse or Stab Shadow Ball. And Spiritomb's actually got a decent special attack stat. Now it is going to be a physical wall here, and it's going to be very, very good against fighting types, which obviously Dark type isn't very good against fighting types. This thing doesn't care about them. It will just sit in and go for Shadow Balls and be super effective, and that is fantastic. It's a very welcome addition to this team. It's also got Will-O-Wisp, since most fighting types tend to be physical attackers. Will-O-Wisp halves your physical attack and does a little bit of residual damage. Now, obviously, if you are poisoned, you can't be burnt, but if that's the case, this thing's still going to be able to sit in and take a couple of hits from a fighting type opponent. Even if this thing can't burn you, it's still going to be able to do damage to you, and it's still going to mess up your day. Leftovers to give it a little bit more longevity, because it's going to be gaining some health back, and it could potentially mess you up with a second Destiny Bond afterwards if you can't take it out. And Pressure, just in case you've got some high damage moves like Fire Blast or Hydro Pump, it will take 2 of your PP instead of 1. So instead of using a maximum of 8, you can only use a maximum of 4. And if you haven't used PP ups, because quite frankly, you might not have access to that many during this point in the game, you're only going to really be able to use 3 Fire Blasts, 3 Hydro Pumps, 3 of those very, very powerful moves, which is very important for later on, because you might need those to take down some important threats, and you're not going to be able to because this thing has weakened you and has kind of drained your resources a little bit. Now onto the 5th member, and it's one of her most popular members, the Weavile. This thing hasn't changed much from her original design, but we have given it a little bit more of a purpose. Now, it's a fast physical sweeper, but with the move set and the way that we've set this thing up, it's always going to be looking to get 3 attacks against you. It's going to be looking turn 1 to go for Fake Out. Now, once it's gone for Fake Out, you can't do anything, and it's chipped you down a little bit. And because it's got the Focus Sash, the next attack you do to it will always leave it with at least 1 HP. So either you take this thing down to 1 HP and you use the sash, or you don't and it doesn't die anyway. So it's always surviving 1 hit. And on that turn that you take it down to 1 HP, it goes for either Ice Punch or Night Slash, dealing a lot of damage to you because Weavile is strong. It's got a base 120 attack stat. It might even be 125. I always get that confused. But it's still got a very high attack stat, and Ice Punch and Night Slash are both stab moves. So they're basically 100 power attacks. Now, chances are, if it's going for an attack against you, you're probably not going to either survive it or it's going to do a lot of damage to you and leave you on 1 health. At that point, it goes for Ice Shard the turn after when you're at low health and finishes you off. 3 attacks will probably be taking something out, and in that late stage of the game, it could just finish you with these attacks. Ice Shard in particular could completely clean up a weakened team and really put you on the back foot. So you'll have to be using a lot of items in order to keep your team healthy and revives just to give yourself a chance of taking out this Weavile. And finally, her ace in the hole, her piece de resistance, Houndoom. Now this Houndoom is not that different from her original Houndoom either, but we have made a couple of very crucial changes to it. We've given it the Charcoal, which is going to increase the power of its fire type attacks. We've also given it Flash Fire, so the idea is this thing is going to be switching in on a fire type attack, which is going to basically give its Flash Fire, get that activated, which is then going to synergize and mesh well with the Charcoal and make this thing's fire type attacks nukes. They are going to hurt. Houndoom is a fairly fast Pokemon as it is, with a base 95 speed stat. It's going to be outspeeding a lot of Pokemon that you come across on your playthrough. It's also going to have access to Nasty Plot and Will-O-Wisp. So this thing could set up a Nasty Plot against the Pokemon that it's got a good matchup against, and then depending on what's left, it will just beat you. It will just finish you, because double special attack on a Houndoom that's got Flamethrower, Dark Pulse and the Charcoal to increase the power of Flamethrower, it's just going to finish you. It's just going to finish you. And this team, despite having an obvious strategy, despite having an obvious playstyle that it wants to do against you, is still very balanced, because it's got Pokemon of every different role. It's got a special tank, it's got a physical tank, it's got a special sweeper, it's got a physical sweeper, it's got a physical kind of damage dealer and a special damage dealer. It's got something there for everything you can throw at it, and it will definitely make Karen a very, very fearsome opponent.
Alright then you guys, so back to me. We have the in-game team builder for Sword and Shield using a team based around Karen. Now of course with no dark type starter, other than Greninja, and I didn't really want to do a Gen 6 one, I thought, you know what, screw it, we don't actually use a starter this time round. Your starter for this game will be an Obstagoon, or you will get a Galarian Zigzagoon at the start of the game. You can get it on the first route, so it's really like a quick thing to get. So you can get that, use it as your starter, switch training for level, get level 5 or level 6, whatever, and then suddenly that will be your starter for the team. Obstagoon is very overlooked. I think with that dual weakness to fighting, it's very put off. But I think this thing hits super hard with the aspect of Obstruct, which is his unique move, which if you guys don't know, it's basically Protect. It's basically King Shield. So it, well, opposite of King Shield in terms of the set that if it gets hit when using Obstruct, it's going to lower the user's defense. So like King Shield, it lowers the attack, Obstruct lowers their defense, which means that then Crunch and Double Edge are going to do even more damage, plus the ability Reckless boosts the attack of moves that do recall. Silph Scarf boosted, Double Edge, Reckless, Stab, -1 defense. I don't even know what I need to say more to you guys. Double Edge hits so hard from this thing. Stab boosted, Reckless, Silph Scarf, possibly -1 defense if they've hit you. Cross Chop just for a bit of coverage. Why not? Crunch, of course, is also Stab as well. This thing is super good. Super, super good. If it doesn't resist normal, then things just die. Things don't take a Double Edge whatsoever yet. Like, yeah, you've got to think about, okay, you're going to be taking a lot of recall damage. That's what potions are for. It's what Pokemon centers are for. You know, you've got other team members for. If you need someone to go down really quickly, then trust me, I used this thing against Eternatus, and it did so much damage at a -1 Double Edge holding a Silk Scarf. It was ridiculous how much damage this thing did. It's our first team member. It's fantastic. It's Obstagoon. On to Pokemon number 2 then, you guys, and we have our water type for this playthrough. We have Crawdon, again another really strong physical attacking Mon. Shell Armor ability, holding the Mystic Water, Liquidation, Crunch, Close Combat and Dragon Dance. Fast physical sweeper, of course being able to set up a Dragon Dance in game is very likely considering EVs, IVs, natures, all that good sort of stuff that you take in consideration. Setting up a Dragon Dance and pretty much just sweeping, setting up a Dragon Dance, clicking that Dynamax button, Suddenly you've got plus boosted attack move in Max Knuckle with close combat. You've got Max Geyser Liquidation to set up the rain. Max Darkness, I think, is low as special defense. It does not matter in this case, but it's stab, dark, hard hitting move. Liquidation is going to set up the rain, which means that if you come out of Dynamite, if you use close combat twice and get Max Knuckle, to then possibly +3 if you've Dragon Danced first, you then get Liquidation off on the last Dynamax turn. You go back down to a normal Crawdaunt. You're now in the rain, which means boosted Liquidation power. You're at +3 attack and +1 speed. This thing just does so much damage that it's stupid how much damage you can build up with this thing in game. Obviously, when you're thinking of Surf and stuff, that's not really an option anymore. They took TMs and stuff pretty much out of the game, you know, with the access to the bike and everything. You can now use that to get across. You don't need a Surf Mon. You don't need something with Strength. You don't need something with Cut, because it all gets given to you, which means so much more variety of moves and different things, and you don't have to worry about so many things when it comes to building a team anymore, which just allows physical water types to thrive in this type of team, because so many people are worried about using Surf and having to need Surf. So it allows physical water types to really thrive, and Crawdaunt is one of those. Definitely give Crawdaunt a go if you haven't already. It's fantastic water type, especially with the Dynamax aspect. Like I said, it's our second team member. It is Crawdaunt. On to the third team member then, you guys. We have Pongoro. I've been using this thing in-game because it's just a coverage machine with the ability to have the Iron Fist ability, which boosts any punch-type moves. We're, of course, going to put Hammer Arm, Thunder Punch, Ice Punch, Fire Punch. I don't know if Hammer Arm gets the boost. I want to say it doesn't. But then, obviously, we've got Thunder Punch, Ice Punch, Fire Punch. Definitely do. Bulky Physical Sweeper, I think I've gone with like a max attack, max HP if you're going to look into IVs and EVs you want to ask, sort of like Adamant Nature. It's not the quickest thing in the world, so you really are going to be focused on just taking a hit and hitting something back really hard. Really high physical attack stat. Stab, Hammer Arm, like I said. I haven't gone with a physical Dark type move because we've got Dark types on the team. If you want to use a Dark type, you've got 5 other members on the team that have got Dark type moves on them. So Pangoro is here. Yeah, okay, we got the fighting stab. We don't need the dark stab because we've got a load of other fighting we've got a load of other dark types, shall I say. So this one I use more is using coverage. This allows the electric, the ice, and the fire coverage with the expert belt, just to boost super effective hits. Because it's got all that coverage, it's just going to boost every time it's super effective. You want to go up against grass type and you hit Fire Punch or Ice Punch, it's going to be super effective. You've got Flying type, you hit Thunder Punch or Ice Punch, it's going to be super effective. Expert Belt's going to boost that damage even more thanks to the Expert Belt, and it's going to make it like a stab type move type of damage. And then Hammer Arm boosts up that. If that's super effective, it's going to be stab and expert boosted, and it's just going to be even more. Hammer Arm does lower speed, but we don't mind that because, like I said, Pangoro is already quite slow, so it's just one of those aspects of Pongoro that we're not really worried about. It's got the bulk enough to take a hit, also hit back really hard. Really give it a go. Really good fighting dark type, unless of course you want to run in the Isle and run Urshifu, but then I actually made this team before all the DLCs come out. Urshifu actually would be a really good choice. Absolutely broken in game, I'd imagine. But we've gone with Pangoro this time. Absolutely fantastic. Give it a go if you haven't already. It's our third team member. Of course, it's Pangoro. On to the next Pokemon then, you guys. We have Grimmsnarl, the newly introduced Fairy Dark type for the game. A very interesting one, and one I actually overlooked originally when making the team builders for Pokemon Sword and Shield. Now, of course, I've managed the time to actually go back, play through the games, and give it a load more go, and loads more variety of mons that are available. And Grimmsnarl's really, really solid. A lot of people love this thing, and there's a good reason to it. It's very cool design. It gets a lot of good coverage, and it's just overall a very solid mon to have on the team. There's no real big downside to it. It's got really good bulk, it hits hard, and it's decently speedy. You can run many different sets on it. You can run a special one, you can run a screens one, you can run a physical one. This time around we've gone Spirit Break, Pulse Surrender, Drain Punch, Fire Punch. I will say, just a forewarning, this team is all physical. The dark types in this game that are special, you literally have Thievul, and maybe a special Umbreon if you're feeling that frisky. There's just very lack of anything that you can really work with. I was back and forth with Thievul, talking to people about it. People were like, oh, you could just run a special Grimmsnarl would be better. But I was like, you know what, screw it, we'll just go all physical, we'll go all out. It's a Karen team builder who really cares. It's a bit of fun. It's a bit of fun to use. Like I say, if you guys want to use Thievul and you want to let me know in the comment section below, then do that. It's good for the YouTube algorithm. Comment down below. Give me your thoughts. But yeah, Grimmsnarl is fantastic. In-game, I know a lot of people, it was one of the ones that I realised when going through like the comment section of the Sword and Shield team build, it was one thing that commonly come up when you guys were giving me your teams. Grimmsnarl was a common thing that was coming up a lot of the time. You guys loved Grimmsnarl. Fairy typing is a very, very popular type to use in game because if people are worried about the dragons. It makes sense. Obviously, giving coverage to the team as well. Fairies are an issue. Having a fairy of us up doesn't really help us too much. It is also weak to fairy itself. We will get to that. Don't worry, I do have fairy counters. It's all good. But yeah, it's just a really good one to use. Having the fairy typing is always nice. This dragon type uses, obviously, of course, you can just watch out for Duraludon, but that's why Fire Punch and Drain Punch there. Again, another Dynamax Mon. You can get up Max Knuckle and do a lot of damage. It's just one of those things. If you haven't used the Grimmsnarl yet, I highly recommend you do. Everyone else highly recommends it to me. It's fantastic. It's our next team member. It is Grimmsnarl. On to Pokemon number 5 then, you guys, and we have our first Fairy Resist, of course, being able to, well, resist. It does actually take neutral damage from Fairy, obviously, of course, being Dark type, but something that can super effectively hit those Fairies with Bisharp, our Steel type for the game. Really solid Mon. The only downside a lot of people will say to me is it's late evolution. I understand that. It can be a pain in the ass. That's what the XL candies and what's the Dynamax candies are for. Makes training in this game pretty much obsolete. Really why I love one aspect of Sword and Shield, because grinding is not a massive pain in the arse like other games. Swords Dance, Night Slash, Iron Head, X-Scissor. Again, bit of bug type coverage there. Iron Head, stab, hits the fairies, hits the rocks, does what it needs to do. You could run Night Slash, or you could run Sucker Punch. Depends on how you feel with the Swords Dance set. Going with a bulky physical sweeper, it's not got that much speed, but the way the in-game works with levels and stuff, you should be okay, and it should outspeed some things and probably won't outspeed others, but you get the gist. You can set up a Sword Stance, start clicking Iron Head, possibly get some flinches if you don't kill. It hits really, really hard to find as well, which means people try and lower your stats. It's just going to boost up your attack stat, which makes this thing even hit even harder. Absolutely fantastic Mon. Please give Bisharp a go if you haven't already. I know Ruben's going to love it. It's our 5th team member. It is Bisharp. And then on to the final Pokemon of the video, you guys. We have another Fairy attacker in Drapion. This time around we've gone with a Scope Lens Night Slash, Ice Fang, Felt Sting across Poison. So both its stabs in Cross Poison and Night Slash are high crit chances, so that Scope Lens, a lot of critical hits. Ice Fang's there for coverage, being only weak to ground. Ice Fang just seemed logical to do. Also with the ability Sniper, means that critical hits do even more damage, so if this thing does get a crit, it's going to kill most things. And Felt Stinger is a nice, like, Mimi move. If you do kill something with Felt Stinger, you get, I think, +4 attack. So it's just sort of like, you kill with the first one on the team with Felt Stinger, suddenly your Drapion's at +4 attack, and things are just going to start dying really, really quickly. This thing's really fun to use. There's many different ways that you guys can use it. You can use it as a T-Spike setter as well. Hazards with T-Spikes. I always like to run it as in a physical threat because it's quicker than a lot of people realise. Things like base 90 speed, so it's actually a lot quicker than people realise. It's fantastic. Please give Drapion a go if you haven't already. It's our final team member for the in-game team builder for Karen. It is Drapion. So there you have it, guys. 3 teams based around Elite Four member Karen. Of course, if you have enjoyed today's video, definitely make sure to hit that like button down below for a show support towards the channel and the series. Click that subscribe button if you're brand new to the channel, or if you just haven't clicked subscribe yet. Like 80% of my views on the channel are people that aren't subscribed to the channel, so definitely make sure you subscribe to the channel. Massive thank you once again to Dave and Alex for being a part of this video. Definitely make sure to check out their links in the description down below. Let us know if you were to change anything about any of the teams. Of course, comments are always good for the YouTube algorithm. I try to reply to as many of you as possible. I try to reply to all comments on the videos, just so you guys know that I'm interacting and that I love you guys. I appreciate every single one of you. Thank you once again for checking out the video, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace!